Well, hello there, everybody. Y'all look vaguely familiar. How you doing? Good to see you. I'm back. My back is not back, but I'm back. But you get the idea. So it's good to be here. Better living through uh, pharmaceuticals, right? When you're in pain, I'm going to tell you, you know what I mean. I mean, when you're in pain and your body is, it's doing things that, it normally doesn't do. Um, yeah. And you find that how such small things in the body can cause so much pain. But yeah, it happened. It was my own fault. And you know, still think I guess I'm Superman, right? Yeah. You know, when you pick up stuff, there's a proper way of picking things up. But anyway, learned a good lesson, but missed y'all. And I am back stacked up on the emails. Nina, I saw yours. Believe if I read that right, that new channel, new direction, something like that, new topics. So I'll get back with you on that. And just like I said, folks, there's just a slew of emails. But when you can't sit up in a chair properly, and when you find that even typing on the keyboards are new plateaus of new experiences of pain, you quickly, that self-preservation thing kicks in and says, ain't gonna do it. So didn't do it. Anyway, that's the story. Miss y'all. I hope you had a fabulous week. A lot of changes. Yeah. But in order to continue my garden, it's necessity of planting a seed every day. So I just speak favor into our lives. And even when you do stuff like this, and this was self-inflicted, you find out that, favor is there because there was a number of things that, glad the favor was there. So speaking that over us and favor, it means someone wrote me and said, well, what does it, there's a lot of meanings. Grace is another word. But favor is just that. Um, if you're pulling into a shopping center and you find that suddenly there's like the closest parking space is open when every other space is full, that's favor. When you're standing in line and they say, hey, and picked you just, seem to be at a random and say, hey, we're going to upgrade you. That's favor. All sorts of stuff. So anyway, and we like to seal it off with nothing missing, nothing broken. And boy, talk about that. Um, and y'all know, those of you who've ever suffered from herniated disc, other such injuries, it's amazing. It's not that big. It's a very small thing, but wow, body's an amazing thing, isn't it? I mean, look at us. It's and I guess, from a philosophical position, I guess there is, in a sense, pain has a purpose. It teaches, number one. Unfortunately, in the reality that we are, pain is associated with punishment. Not so sure that that is always the case, but pain does come from punishment. Um, uh, Pain makes you extremely aware and alert of different things that you just took for granted and ignored how important they are and how grateful you are when they do work, because then there's no pain. I guess if there wasn't pain, then we would not know pleasure. And I guess that would be vice versa as well. Deep thoughts. I'm back. Anyway, how's everybody in the chat room? I really have missed y'all. I mean, when you're sitting there and, you're just freaking, it just sucks. Yeah, there was times where, I would just get into a deep meditative state, and I would just begin to speak love to that part of my body and to begin to see it regenerate itself and, the swelling go down. Um, you find out very quickly that reality, existence, consciousness, they're rare gifts. They really are. We all take them for, advantage. It's like, yeah, but really, that gift of awareness, the gift of consciousness, the gift of pain, pleasure, when you get really into those quiet places, it's wow. I mean, for me, there was a point last week it was really bad, and I took myself to this place where, I wouldn't say it was a mountaintop, but it was more mountainous in my mind. And I just took a break and thought, you know, consciousness, we take it so much for granted. And yet it is, it's an immense gift. It really is. Um, and it exists on so many, it's like the dreamscape. No matter which way you turn, the dreamscape changes. And consciousness is like that. I mean, when you're in the throes of intense pain, it's amazing. The body is speaking, and yet the mind is affected. It's far out. So, how is everybody in the chat room? Gilbert, did your procedure go all right, brother? I hope it did. Um, there will be days I will be missing because I have to do a little bit of the physical therapy, you know what I mean? Greg, got your email, brother, OU1, and yes, love to do an interview. I think that would be really cool. Fireflies, what's up? Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. Lost in Space, what's up, bro? Zelda Berry, good. Yeah, who's back? Yeah, look who's back. Yeah. Felix, good to see you. Greetings. Is that Gelzor? Good to see you. Thank you. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. Yeah. So they say. Know thyself, nor truer words, right? Hey, Colleen, how you been, girl? Good to see you. And Rick, good to see you. It is Prosperity Monday, by the way. Jet, hello. Loretta, how are you, darling? Linda Espinoza. And I love that last name, Espinoza. That's a spirit name, It's like you have words that are of, the body, then you have the words that are of spirit, and that's one of them. Espinoza, it rolls off it. Nina, good to see you. Trust I'll would love to come on and with you and Robert. Think that would be fun. There was just no way it was going to happen, and I didn't read anything until this morning, and I had like no exaggeration. It was well over 600 something emails. It was like, wow. Okay. DC, Jackie, what's up? Nothing missing. So I think I got everybody. Of course, I'm just scrolling through here. Scotty boy, good to see you. Thank you. Honored. Honored to have all of you here. In truth, good to see you. B, hello, Monkey Experiment. What's up? Truth Wave Energy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good to be, the saying is, better to be seen than viewed. Ta-ta. Come on. You can hear the jump. Ta-ta. Yeah. What else? as I go and scroll down. A lot of people, and thank you for all of you. Paul, Joe, as I see so many. Go from Croatia. I, the Maelstrom. John, how are you? Gaia, good to see you as well. So, mystical, rock hounding, and fossils. I love that handle. That's originality. And that's a guy personality. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, so yeah, they amazing what chemicals can do to the body. Like you have a muscle relaxer, right? To relax, the muscles and what have you. And yet it's amazing how just altering chemicals in your bloodstream, what effect they can have, isn't it? Okay, Askin, so glad that you are at least feeling better. Yes, 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 I am. And I just want to thank Trina. I know that a bunch of y'all was sending some healing to me, and it was quite amazing. Sometimes you have to hit this, I don't know, is it a crescendo? Is it a pinnacle? Is it an apex? I don't know. Choose your words. But um, healing comes in night. And I swear I was in one of those states. I do turn in my sleep, but boy, but last night, man, I was like, so I knew there was some deep healing work going on somewhere. Exactly. Hello, Stephanie Marie. How are you? Good to see you as well. So freaking much going on. So, you know, when you're by yourself, I actually had Bentley. Bentley is my shadow. Wherever I go, Bentley's right there. So, and he is a great companion. And it was just real quiet. Sometimes I like it quiet. And when particularly you're in pain, physical pain, um, I find the quietness to almost be like a healing salve. That quietness can just come over you and you get yourself kind of enraptured into it. It's like a nice, like a blanket that comes right out of the dryer in its winter time, and it's that warmth. You know what I'm talking about. And that's a cool place to be. And it occurred to me that we are in a very unique time in history. I don't know if you realize it, but each and every one of you, by again, I just thank all of you for what a community. Appreciated all the support. But you, me, we are, wow, we're right in it. And it's it's amazing because everybody is feeling it. Everybody is. And it's like this, I don't know if you could call it a trumpet announcement or something, but I'm convinced the horn has blown. And when you hear that horn, you pick up your ears because something's going to happen. And um, just perusing what people are out there consuming um, is it's collective now. It's connected. And doesn't matter whether you're on this side of the polarity or over on this side or on that side. It's now all connected. And in some perceive it as, futility. There's nothing you can do about it. So, eat, drink, and be happy. There's others who believe that, You can affect it and affect it in a means that it may not be universal, but it would be local to an individual or potential group. Then there's those who just don't seem to give a damn. I mean, for them, it's like big freaking deal. It's here. And then you got those that, uh, and it's interesting because by the evidence about what we're seeing done, kind of gives you an indication where we are in a timeline. And if you look at it from a certain point of view and look at how these timelines are occurring, it's very clear that we're into something and it is monumental. It is one of the things that our species in the future, however that future is, I don't know what that future looks like, but they will no doubt be writing about this time because this is when it happened. And as I was saying, everyone can feel it. Uh, whether you have an inner anticipation, an inner anxiety, or you're seeking something more immortal, immortality. Um, that's how we know where we are. And there was an article recently, Peter Thiel, who was part of the PayPal mafia, um, met Peter a couple of times. Um, and anyway, I don't know if you know the story of PayPal, the PayPal mafia, but it's quite a interesting thing that happened. And I won't spend any time here, but if you've never read about it, go check it out. Um, it was very interesting, and that was one of those key pivotal moments where humanity, our group of individuals, come together, and then they collectively give of their essence, their talents, and they produce this alchemy, and it changes the world. And it did. The whole thing, if you study payment, and when payment changes, it changes us. And so what they did, and subsequently others, with Square, even my small little company, um, that technology changed us, which is weird. So we advance now quarter century, right? And they're wealthy beyond control. I mean, anything they could have imagined. The world for them in reality is not the same for us. They live in a different reality. It's a different physical reality. But that's for another show. But these visionaries, these unique individuals who came together and changed the world, um, they didn't stop there. And now that nearly a quarter of a century has elapsed, reality is like, you know, knocking on the door saying, hello. Um, and they don't want to answer the door because they know who is at the door, and that is death, age, time. I mean, those three, they get their little menage a trois all the time. But anyway, they're knocking on the door, and and you can't blame them, I guess, in a sense. Listen, if you've changed the world and you can influence the world, and there's nothing that isn't virtually available to you, um, you typically don't want to give that up. You just don't. And these are individuals who, you know, in one in a billion ideas, they hit it. And the interesting thing is, if you look at their hit meters, uncanny to see what's going on there, but I digress. Um, so this article I was reading, it's all in line, and if you look at what these demigods, and that's what they are. Yeah, they're mortal, but I think if you see it from a certain perspective, that if spirits exist, if demigods and princes and lords and goddesses exist, whether it be this realm or the next or the one that surrounds this one, um, then they get involved in the affairs of humans. I mean, wouldn't you? If you were a god or a goddess and you look down on humanity, I mean, I have to say, I'd love the challenge. It's like, all right, gonna bet you, Scotty, that you can't go through that and not be changed as a god on the other side. Now, the question is Scotty going to take me up on the bet? And he's going to say, well, let's just say, he says, sure, but if I'm going to do it, then you have to do it. And so you dive into this thing, and when you get in with humans, I mean, it's a trip, man. It's a trip beyond all trips. But nevertheless, I do believe they do get involved in the affairs of humans. And I think that they have agendas. Humans have agenda. The question that has been posed, that if you right now, and we just invite the spirits and the goddesses and the gods and all that may be listening, right? And so let's say right now before you, you have probably one of the most important figures that you're going to have to deal with. Now, how you deal with it, it's up to you. But just for this little exercise, I'm allowed to tell you that death is right before you, and death is willing to make a deal. And the deal is, if you were offered immortality right now, would you take it? And in that gift, you're going to go back to what you would visualize as your ideal age. So would you take the deal? And it's interesting, some would say yes. You know, um, maybe, maybe not. I would think that having death, and death, by the way, death, it's so misinterpreted. I mean, without death, there wouldn't be life. Oh, death isn't always the bad guy or the gal. I don't know why death can't be feminine. I think in the Hindu it is, isn't it? Gee, I think that it is. Um, I'm going to have to go back and read the comments on this. I love, hello, Lady Ellie, how are you? And she says, no, thank you. Yeah. And it's interesting because if you look at the immortality, what is it that you seriously are seeking? Or maybe more importantly, wanting? Every one of us look for affirmation, confirmation into the real possibility that my conscience, your consciousness, will be intact after this encounter with death. Because isn't that what consciousness is all about? The collecting of memories, experience. I was meditating, you know, uh, got a lot of time to do that. And it's that question again you ask yourself, so what is the purpose of God? What's God's purpose? I mean, if you get outside the dogma and the paradigm that, it's going to save your soul, there's this heaven, this hell. I mean, that's a false construct, but, a lot of people are caught into it. You know, so what would be the purpose of God? At the end of the book, it never says what happens. It doesn't. I mean, forever is a long time. And when I ask the question if you could live forever, here's where people get tripped up. And you think about this. So let's just say, um, you say, sure, yeah, I'll take the deal. But the thing about contracts and deals is that you have to be very specific as to exactly what you're agreeing to. So immortality, is it merely constrained to the physical appearance that you would never grow old, you would learn, you would see people around you, loved ones, families, children, mates, die. You continue, never aging, but ever learning. So, but the question we have to back up is that, okay, but isn't that just one part of immortality? I don't know about you. I write my book and I was just writing this note and I wrote to myself, I'm already immortal. If I have the ability to think, and if I do believe that my consciousness will survive the experience that is yet to come, but is coming, and do I carry that with me wherever I wake up in? And that's the best thing I can think about is death, I guess, would be you would be awakened from death. Um, so how could something make a deal with me to be immortal if I am already immortal? But a lot of people don't see it that way. A lot of people see it that, well, what really counts is what the consciousness has experienced, cause and effect. And they're hell bent on it. Um, I have no doubt, I have no solid proof that I can say, hey, let's look at this. Got a lot of white papers, a lot of different articles that um, they're no doubt deeply into this. All of these demigods who have, in one sense, are immortal, but in another sense, haven't achieved what their perception of immortality is, um, then that's what they're after. They know it. What did Bezos just get married? And what I think he's 61. So if I can think like this, I have no doubt that they do as well. Because I look at everything as days. I don't look at it as years. Days are more relevant because each day I change. Each day you change. And if I'm more focused in on each day, it makes the future much more palatable to be formed and to materialize here. So, so Bezos and his new wife just got married at what was yesterday or Saturday, whenever it was. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so the cat's 61 thereabouts. So the question is, does he have 10,000 days more life? Now, 10,000 days may not sound a long time, but it is. 10,000 days is nearly 30 years. That would say, well, then what would he be like at 91? He still wants that youth, that zest, that body that just, makes him an Adonis. And listen, it's all right. It's perfectly fine. He can afford it, go for it. But yet it shows to the point. And so what they're focusing in on is this transference of consciousness, transhumanism. And it's going to be interesting because I believe we're going to be coming into a time that's going to be almost like, King Arthur's court. Um, these tech wizards that yield the power, the influence, the technology. I mean, they're the gods over the technology. Technology is everything. And if you don't have technology, well, you know, you can have money, but it's the technology, baby, because it's the technology that's driving it. So I believe that we're in that phase now that where I believe we are creating artificial human beings. We get the idea of AI. AI is taken over. If you don't think it isn't, well, okay, it's cool. But there are some of us who happen to think that, yeah, the battle's already won, sadly. And when I look at this, we're going to start seeing some weird stuff. I think we're about to get into a place that, you can almost look at Peter Pan. We're in Neverland. We should never have been here. We're in a time, in a place that may be as magical and mythical as the time when the gods were mating with everybody. Go back to Genesis 6, the fallen angels. They just weren't having sex with women. Them damn angels, they were having sex with everything and everyone. Yeah, that's wild. But I believe we're coming into this, and the reason why I believe this is that when we start looking at this, and then there's a concerted effort focused in this new reality, bringing that reality into this one, it's scary. Excuse me. So I think we're about to see some weird stuff. And I think that's only the beginning of it. I mean, this race for immortality. How much money do you think any politician would give if they knew, let's say Pelosi? How about Trump? That there's a price that would give you that. There's been movies made like that, other sitcoms, but it's amazing how much Hollywood has predicted the future. I think we're there. So what's happening in the chat room as I am looking through? What do y'all think about this? Okay, that's cool. Hmm. Joe Mack, that's an interesting thing because that's what most people are afraid of about death is that it's going to hurt. Uh, yeah, and Joe wrote, you know, it's the pain leading up to the passing over. Um, I'd be scared of experiencing excruciating pain. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, and it's interesting. I've contended that, in the West, we excuse me, folks, I got a dry throat. Hmm. And it ain't no frog, it's just a dry throat. Um, that we've been one of the things that the fall of our knowledge, there was a knowledge once known amongst humans how to die. Painless, completely voluntarily. When you felt like you've had enough, you would simply go into your room, wherever that was, a hut, whatever, you know. Typically, it's cold, and many times you will see people that, as I've read and seen, they'll take blankets. Even, I think it was in, what was it, in Second Chronicles when David was dying, and his mother, Bathsheba, brought in a concubine. It wasn't to have sex with David, it was that her body heat he was absorbing. So, but they say we can pass over with no pain at all. I mean, if we're all going to go, and I contend I'll go in my sleep, why not? Elderberry, that is an interesting comment. He says, you won't have to worry about this financial tyranny anymore. Odd you say that because I was sitting in my chair, um, and so I come from Christianity, from the that God is rich, God makes his kids rich, right? Why would he withhold that which he owns anyway to those who are the rightful heirs, right? And in many of the decades, because it was all about the prosperity message, I know the prosperity message, um, is that even the Jesus dude talked about putting your treasures, your wealth, in heaven, where they can't be stolen, etc. And there's a lot of people over there, and I keep thinking, well, why would that cat tell me to be putting my treasures in heaven, where neither thief nor rust nor moth can steal? So I don't know. What if there is a financial system over there? I sometimes think that over there is more like here than what we really been led to believe. I mean, do you believe that when you die that there's going to be someone there to meet you? Do you believe that there's going to be someone there to take care of you? Someone there that will begin to help you to adapt into, I mean, do you think it's just going to come like that? I mean, if it's like this place, think about it. The odds of you making it in this realm at one time were tremendous. I mean, you come in as a newborn baby, you are completely defenseless. You completely rely upon others to take care of you. And so, is there going to be someone there? How long does it take you to adapt over there? I mean, if you look at it here, and I'm just speculating, I'm just talking. Um, it takes you at least a good year to learn these bodies. I mean, the first year we're all on our backs or stomachs, we're crying, we're just, it's just miserable. We're more spirit minded, and we're crying because we realize that we're in something that we can't escape from. And it's cold or it's hot, or you're got some kind of itch on your butt and you don't know why, and you can't, you're just defenseless. I don't know. It's like when you see these video clips of people just out in, everyday situations, and the one case they showed, that there was a cemetery, and it was in like almost like the middle of the day, but there were ghost children playing. I mean, do you suddenly become the age you know, that you are here? I mean, to go over there old would suck. No. I got to go back and read something in the comments. Lovely conversation, but I'm just talking. Don't know. These were just quiet thoughts I were having that, what if we've been really kind of really misled? Because I asked the other purpose earlier, what's the purpose of God? I mean, what is God's purpose? I mean, really, what's he supposed to do? It do. I mean, I don't know. I really want to see, and if you're watching this on the replay, thank you very much. Let me know. I would like to know. You can give me your religious ideology points of view, or give me your original points of view. But really, what is the purpose of God? I mean, you think about it. You read the end of the book, and apparently we're just going to be hanging around the throne forever and ever and ever. I don't like that idea. I mean, there's a universe, right? I don't know. Nina says, which God? That's a good, but let's say any God. What is a purpose of a God? Um, so is God and creator synonymous? I'm watching Nina coming back, fast typing, Nina. It still doesn't really answer what is the purpose of God? What is the purpose of God? I mean, I've asked this question many times. Why would God want worshipers? Why? Then that leads off into the whole thing of this whole God, hell, heaven, judgment thing. So you're going to be judged because, you didn't do this, this, this. Well, here's the problem. I'm not guilty because that those things that you just ticked off, those are your attributes, not mine. I was never created to be merely a mimic. Supposing I have free will. And if I have free will, that means I have free will to reject whatever the current dogma may be. So again, what purpose is a God? What do they do? I mean, if it's creation, then the God then would be more concerned about what's happening because creation never stops, right? Um, because God has the best starship. One would hope so, but then you got a Kirk would say, what does a God need a starship for? He's God, you know? But yet the God that we really read about in the book of Ezekiel, he had to have a spaceship. Do new. Colleen says if God needs worshipers, he has a huge ego. Ba ba da bing bang ding dong. There you go, right there. Nuts. I'm not saying anything negative about it. How I kind of frame it in my consciousness is that there is this, there is this. All I know, it's completely well. It's everything, and there's a flow and an ebb to it, and no, I guess that's what we are, an ebb and flow of consciousness. Because then that gets into that whole thing that if, well, and let's say in the book, and I was a Christian, and I've I read the book of Revelation many times. It never says what you do. Supposedly, there's going to be this great white throne judgment, and then the great dragon's going to be thrown into the lake of fire. And you think about this and you're going, but you're the one that created all that. And now to wipe your hands clean of it, you're just going, oh, there they go. I'm going to put them into the sea of forgetfulness, and no one will remember them no more. Next. That's what the story says. And then supposedly that, this New Jerusalem, the ship that comes down, if you've got the golden ticket and you're up there with the lamb and washed in the blood of the lamb, and then you take on these new bodies and that you have this new name that only the one cat knows, and it's written on a stone, and that you supposedly then will start taking the fruits of the tree of life that gives in each 12 different types of season, and you bring it back down in earth, because the story goes that there will be the Hebrews, the Jews, will be here on earth, and there'll be populations growing. People will still have sex. There will be barter and there will be trade. Wow, I mean, that's just the that's some weird stuff now. So, when I hear other potential challenges to that, I'm open to that. It's like, okay, I think that's a pretty wild story, but that's what it is. And its total framework, it's very limiting, man. It really is. Wow. I mean, what is it? Just the great head of Oz that sits there? I just, I, that's why I have a problem with, I ask this question of myself because I keep these little journals next. And I wrote this thing, and let me just read it to you because I thought it was interesting. So when we talk um, about God, good, evil, sin, it leads to a question. And the question is evil omnipotent? Is evil omnipresent? Is evil omnipotent? Does evil know everything? Does evil know the future? If evil is, and evil does, then who is the most powerful of all? Would it not be evil? For it would seem that evil is everywhere and all power. It would seem that evil would be as the same as another omnipotent being. Would this apply to death as well? Is death omnipresent? Is death omnipotent? Is death omnipotent? For it would seem that there would be no new life if they were not so. Just writing in my wild, but it begs a good question. I lived most of my life under this whole guilt complex. No matter how good you are, you still sin every day. So that's why you have to sin and repent every day and saying your prayers. And it's like, geez, I mean, if I'm praying to an omnipotent being, wouldn't he already know that? Wouldn't he already figure it out? And if a person and if a God really is omnipresent, omnipotent, omnipotent, why does it live? It already knows everything. It knows everything that's going to happen. That, in my humble opinion, would be the definition of insanity. What would be your purpose? No matter what happens, you already know it. That's just, a few little deep thoughts. Brian says, you only feel love, hate at the same time, just an emotion. And that's an interesting point. So is love just an emotion? What's love got to do with it? Little Tina Turner there, huh? But, so I had a lot of time to write these things down. And it's one of those things that you think about evil. So if evil did not exist, would God exist? Would there be a need for a God? I'm not beating up on God. I'm just simply asking questions. I mean, it's like it's like when you do an audit. Companies do it, and sometimes you do an annual audit on employees and measurements and what have you there, and you look at it and you come across a person that you're really trying to figure out what they do. They got a title, you know, but yet they don't seem to do anything. And so then I was thinking, all right, so let's just say that there is all right, this intelligence is above all this. Now, somehow or another, it's got some kind of weird freaking game going on. Well, how do you strategize against that? If that being is smart enough to put us all into this shit, and then we're trying to figure out how to get out of it, we're trying to make sense of it, because no one told us the rules. All right, let's just say that there's this higher purpose to all this. It's certainly a convoluted way to get to an end, isn't it? Monkey Experience says, if God is insane, what about the followers? Wouldn't they reflect the insanity? Isn't that, well, there you go. Thank you, sir. Give that man a free drink. But it's true. Hey, flight risk. Yeah. So I had this whole thing. I got all these PDFs open and we'll continue on. One of the days this week, I will be at physical therapy. I told you that, and I'll let you know that. But tomorrow, I do plan on being with the ladies. So I am a person that I believe that you can make reality change by writing things down. Um, and when you write them down, it's really where the magic starts. Reality literally begins to change. And sometimes that change is rapid, sometimes it's more gradual. And so I study faith, studied it for decades. Um, it's a powerful force. Most people misuse their faith and they use it against themselves. And I guess in a lot of ways, we are trained to do that. Starting in school, you're limited into what you can create. You are, first of all, indoctrinized into a group, into groups, and everyone supposedly starts at the same time out of the gate. And you begin to find out that the basis of reality in normal societal thinking is very well defined. It's a box. And those who carry forth um, attributes of who they actually are, but in previous existences, when they carry that over, it produces challenges for those who are in charge of making sure that that is broken, that that aspect of the imagination of, the daydreaming, the imaginary friends, that those are in fact real phenomenon, but it has to be trained out of you. You have to be taught your faith that that doesn't exist anymore. And so it becomes part of your faith. It becomes that element that builds your reality. Everybody's got a reality. And I wanted to share this because to me, this was something that I don't know about you, but it within my life, it has been a goal, a challenge, um, sometimes ever elusive, of learning to understand what the now means. And when you begin to capture it, it's amazing because suddenly this reality ceases. Well, it continues to exist, but it exists at a much slower unfolding. And in that moment, you can literally change your whole direction. You can change the very fabric that forms the basis of your reality, your existence. It's capturing that moment, the now. And it's always been one of those elusive things for me because sometimes I overthink it. And then there's other times that where I've experienced it, but just to experience it is like, all right, so what do you do with it now? So I like manifesting things that be not as though they are. I'm so grateful to, and they would find it insulting, but it's really not. Many of the wizards that taught me. And again, they would be offended by that title, but they don't understand. It's really more of one of respect. A wizard, um, even a witch, a sorceress, a priestess. Um, they still hold an office and they still have knowledge. So the knowledge that I bring with me now is understanding that there's this substance that exists. It's real. It's not imaginary. And in order to see something to manifest, the only way that, and I'll share this with you, that it begins to manifest almost instantaneously is being able to exist in the now. That now. And so Lynn was reading and I'm writing, and this epiphany hit me. And it was like, and it lasted for a couple of hours. And she was kind of laughing because I kept telling her, I said, you don't understand. This is like a big deal. I said, it was this, the rockets were going off, and I know not everyone gets excited about, your epiphany, because it's your epiphany. Well, this was for me. And I told her, I said, for literally 40 years, um, I've studied faith, all the different aspects. In fact, the God that I was told that exists, you couldn't approach that God unless you had faith. And it always amazed me how, with some people, it seemed their faith would work miracles. Situations would completely change, reverse. I've seen it, I've been there. And if it, when you realize that this type of, call it a force, call it an energy, the way that it is accessed is you have to be in the now. And I don't know if I'm making sense. I am to myself because um, it's working, and it's always good to test your faith. So allow me. I'm going to go a little bit over because my desire is to see each and every one of you manifest that which would make you the most happiest. I mean, what better gift could you give to someone else? It's the old fable, about the man who saw the man who was hungry, and guy went out and caught him a fish, and gave the man who was hungry the fish. And the thing is, did you do him a service or a disservice? Well, if you had taught that man how to fish, he would never go hungry again. And so I'm sitting there, and so this comes across to me that now faith is. And I know this may mean nothing, but maybe to someone it does. But for me, all of a sudden, the fireworks went off. Um, I'll read to you what exactly I wrote. I said, now faith is. That's it is ever now. Now. Um, it's not tomorrow. It's not yesterday. It's not today. It is now. And within that now, um, wow, it's like you can begin to create and it begins to manifest. Now, I'm doing a little thing, and I'm not going to tell you about it because I don't want people who have negative or disbelief. That's the other thing. You have to be very, uh, your faith in the now is precious. it's more precious than what you can imagine. And there are other things that would like to get to it because when you're in that moment of now, that faith now is it is powerful. And it with when spoken to, um, it it can't be stopped. And it doesn't matter what it is that now is the faith. I wrote note after note. It's just because it just kept coming. Like for instance, you I wrote right here. I said within the now, faith comprehends it can actually see what cannot be seen, and it can bring forth that which is not seen by the physical eye, but brought to the eye of faith. Faith is always in the now. Faith never works, um, never, excuse me, faith never worries. So anyway, maybe some of you don't like it, some of you do. I don't care. It's powerful stuff. And when you get the physical evidence, it really doesn't freaking matter what anyone else thinks because you know. You just try to share it with others and maybe they can grasp a little bit of it. Um, but it will work. It will literally work. You know, doesn't take that many to change the world. I was watching this program. It was really interesting. And it is estimated, get this, that if you could get 2,000 people to agree on the same thing and get that into it, that when they go to sleep, that is the singleness of thought of what they're thinking, all 2000, that in science has shown that things change. It literally begins to change what we perceive that fabric of reality to be. And the way it makes its change so often it blends almost into what we all remember, because then if we think we remember it, we don't question it. And there may have been a shift, but we were be more dependent on believing as we remembered it to be and then what it is. So anyway, there you go. Boy, I really went over. My apologies. My apologies. Going to have the ladies on tomorrow, so thank you. Appreciate all of you. I really do. It sucked last week, but you know, have to get a new chair, the whole bit. I mean, it was like, wow, man. So let me know what you think. Deep thoughts, as best that I am thinking. I love to hear y'all because you think these deep thoughts as well. All right, be here with Miss Trina and Miss Jenny tomorrow. Thank you all. Much love to you. Speak favor over us again. And until we meet on the next exciting in-depth conversation. All right. Much love, everybody. All right. Bye-bye.